Hola, hola, otaru. Alright, subtitles, right? You need the subtitle. No, there's no subtitles. Oh, shucks.
On February 15th of 1993, the northern city of Liverpool, England, would bear witness to one of the most
Hold
shocking and
on.
horrific cases in.
Are there times where, because your Forgotten Reaper has that hard accent, right? I don't know how hard, very hard. But is there times where you sometimes like can't understand what he says sometimes? Yes? Oh, okay. All right, all right. A lot? Oh man. Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. Well, let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Your ears might be trained.
Its history.
Police on Merseyside say that two
Wait, how about him? Does he have hard time hearing you too? Okay, never mind. Let's go. Let's go.
2-year-old James Bulger, who disappeared from a shopping precinct at the weekend, was horribly murdered and then dumped on a railway line. They say that someone must know the identity of the two boys who took James from the precinct.
Inch by inch, the police have searched the railway line where 2-year-old James Bulger's body was found yesterday. The scene is still protected from the elements for forensic work. The body itself was removed late last night. His uncle had identified him. It had been spotted earlier by 4 schoolboys playing. The blurred images of 2 youths seen taking James away are now all over the city. The public say detectives hold the key to finding them. They believe James was killed locally, then his abandoned body was hit by a train.
We know it is a murder inquiry. There's not, as we'd first hoped, we were going to find James and return him to his parents. It is horrific what has taken place, and there must somewhere be somebody who will know the identity of the 2 boys who were seen with James.
James's blue and mustard hood, seen here in a security video, has now been recovered. It had been missing from his clothing but was found nearby. Police have set up a temporary base in the shopping centre. They're warning parents that other children could be vulnerable.
For goodness sake, keep tight hold of your children. Poor James only went missing from his mother for a matter of seconds, and he'd gone and disappeared.
It was a warning heeded as parents picked up their children from school.
I've said to him that if he doesn't hold my hands, then, you know, an naughty man's going to take him and all that.
It's on your own doorstep, isn't it? I mean, I come to Strand every day with my kids. Of course, it's frightened everybody.
The shadow of this murder is hanging heavily over Liverpool. As flowers built up around the scene, James's family have spent the day being counselled by specially trained officers. Dozens of bunches of flowers have been laid in response to a crime whose shadow is hanging heavily over the city, the appalling murder of a defenceless toddler. James suffered truly horrific injuries, said the police, before his body was dumped on a railway and hit by a train. The discovery of his remains has led to a massive public response. Detectives are tonight studying the evidence so far accumulated. But police still haven't traced these 2 youths, photographed leading James away by a security camera. Inch by inch, officers have searched the line today, trying to establish the exact sequence and timing of events. The inquiries have gone on all day, and they've been going on all evening. The search as urgent as ever for the vital clue that will lead the police to whoever killed a helpless 2-year-old.
Today, the police investigating the murder announced a breakthrough in their inquiries.
Following the abduction of James Bulger from the New Strand shopping precinct in Bootle on Friday the 12th of February 1993, and the subsequent findings of his body on the railway line in Walton on Sunday the 14th of February, 2 boys aged 10 years from Walton area have been arrested and are currently being interviewed by Merseyside police at police stations on Merseyside.
Today's announcement came after hundreds of calls to the incident room overnight, following the first screening on television last night of an enhanced video photograph of the 2 youths seen with James. It can no longer be shown for legal reasons.
On the afternoon of February 12th, 1993, 10-year-olds John Venables and Robert Thompson would enter a shopping mall in the northern part of Liverpool with the intention of kidnapping a small child, something they attempted not once, but twice. Inside a department store, a woman noticed that 2 boys were trying to get her 2-year-old son's attention. Moments later, she realized he was missing. The woman began calling his name and ran outside, where she found Venables and Thompson beckoning the boy to follow them. When Venables saw the mother, he told the boy to go back to
But
her,
why?
and they both
Says
vanished.
Kasumi.
Mere luck had saved that child, but also sealed the terrible fate of another. Soon after
we
the
can
aborted
never
abduction,
know.
Venables and Thompson were loitering around a
Psychos.
candy stand when they noticed 2-year-old James Bulger by the door of a nearby butcher's shop. With Bulger's mother momentarily distracted, they got the toddler to come with them. Venables then took him by the hand and led him away.
They're so young.
James and his abductors were caught
yes,
by a
that
surveillance
is
camera
insane.
leaving them all at 3:42 p.m.
That is
By this
insane.
time, James's mother Denise
You
was
will
panicking.
never
She quickly
suspect
found
that,
mall
ever.
security personnel and described
like
her son
in the
and what he was
movie
wearing. They announced
where
the boy's
the
name
adult,
over the
that is
loudspeakers,
let's say
but
he's
there was
a
no
bad
sign of
person,
him, and he was then
disguised
reported
as a
missing
kid.
at the local police
That's only in the
station.
movie,
After
right?
the boys had led James away from the mall,
But
he
this
began
is-
crying
this
out
is
for
crazy.
his mother.
This is too
They
much.
ignored him and continued down to a
This is
secluded
out of the
area near
ordinary.
a canal, where they dropped him on his head and left him on the ground crying. A woman passing by noticed the child but did nothing. The boys then called for James to come, and he still followed. His forehead was bruised and cut, causing his abductors to pull his jacket hood over his head to hide the injury. They then walked away from the canal and through a residential street, where one witness later reported noticing a small child crying while being forcefully led by 2 older boys. She didn't report the incident, but gave a statement 5 days later.
I've heard people saying, why didn't someone do this and why didn't someone do that? But, you know, now the guilt's there. I don't think I'd ever get this guilt. I seen them. I heard the baby crying. And I watched them. Oh, God, I watched them. I've got to look out this window every day. I see these kids. I go to bed and I see these kids.
A second witness also noticed the trio while driving, but only reported the incident
Like,
when
you
the
would
story hit the
assume
front page of the
that
national
a 2
news
boy and
3
one
days
boy and
later.
one boy crying.
Police that same day.
You would just thought that they're just hanging out, right? Or siblings or cousins or
that it wasn't him. Because
playing
they
or
thought
something.
that I could have done something about it.
My goodness.
At some time between 5:45 and 6:30 p.m., Thompson and Venables brought the exhausted 2-year-old to a railway. When they arrived, the boys hesitated, perhaps reconsidering what they were about to do, and briefly turned away from the embankment. But then they both turned back toward the privacy of the area, and the brutal torture and murder of James Bulger occurred. Eventually, the 2 boys placed James's dead body across the train tracks in hopes of making the whole thing look like an accident. They then abandoned the scene before a train came and severed the toddler in 2. With little to go on, Bulger's parents were initially the prime suspects, but when police saw the CCTV footage from the shopping mall, the story went nationwide and the search for Bulger intensified. His body was discovered 2 days after his disappearance. An anonymous phone call to the police then implicated John Venables and Robert Thompson as the killers. The caller told police that Venables and Thompson were both absent from school on the Friday of the abduction. Both boys were then taken in for
I wonder,
questioning.
what were we doing at 10 years old?
He said that the 2 of you were in the Strand and that you saw the little boy.
We never. We never.
Is that the God's honest truth?
God's honest truth, I'm telling you that we never. He was too scared. He was probably too scared.
And he said that you took him by the hand and led him out of the Strand shops.
We never. He's a liar.
Calm down.
Oh my gosh. Alright, it's alright. Come on, look. It's alright. Come on, alright.
I never got the boy. I never killed him, Mum. Yeah, we was, but we never saw any kids there. We never got any kids.
So you were in Bootle New Strand?
Was you in Bootle Strand?
Yeah, but we never got a kid, Mum. We never got
Mrs. Venables, would you... I must ask you not to get angry with it. A short while ago, as is detailed on your custody record out there, you had a conversation with your mum and you then requested that myself and Dave Tanner come into the room. Is that right? Yeah. And what was it you told us?
That I killed James.
Holy.
He took him on the railway shop and started throwing bricks at him.
Why did he throw bricks at him?
No.
Did it make him fall over?
No.
So you're saying he threw the same house brick at him, full in the face? And he didn't fall over?
Yeah, he did fall over. And he just kept on getting back up again. He wouldn't stay down.
What was he saying while he was doing all this?
He was saying stay down, you stupid dick and all that.
Why did he want him to stay down?
I don't know. Wanted him dead probably. So we walked up to him and we were walking around with him and I took his hand.
Well, whose idea was it to walk towards him?
Mine.
Was it? What did
Then
he
it was Robert's idea to kill him. And we went outside to the canal.
What for?
Don't know, we said let's throw him in the water. He was persuading him, he said kneel down and let's look at the water and all that, but he wouldn't. Because when we wouldn't get him down, Robert picked him up and threw him on the floor and that's where he got his bump on his head.
Where'd you go with him after that?
The reservoir where that woman spotted us.
Is young James walking with you by this time, or are you still having to pull him?
And he was walking with us.
Was he upset, or had he made friends with you?
He was alright.
I know the truth. I believe I know the truth.
I was there.
That's right.
You waved.
Correct, but I know that a lot of things that have gone on.
Yeah, well, do you know it was me that killed him? It wasn't. I never even killed him.
Bobby.
What?
Being a kid is really hard to lie.
I'll be over in a few minutes if you just tell me.
Especially when you know you're talking to a cop. But Thompson here, he challenged the cop.
Right. Try and stop. Right. We're getting there, aren't we? We're getting to the truth now.
Yeah, well, I'm going to end up getting out of the plane because I've got blood on me. He got
Jesus.
the baby's hand and just walked around the strand. And then you let him go loose then.
Did he?
When we were by the church, you let him go.
And you were with John then? You shaking your head? You shaking your head?
Yeah, I told him to take him back.
You did what?
Told him to take him back.
You told him to take
I
it back?
don't know.
All right, Bobby. No, you're not getting all the blame. We're just asking your son. We're trying to find
we
the truth.
usually always get the blame.
Wait a minute, Bobby. Listen. Just calm yourself down for a minute, okay? You alright?
He said he wants us more.
So what did you say to him?
What did you say?
You?
We're going to try and find us, Mum.
Where did you leave him then?
On a reservoir place.
I don't believe you would have left him there. You took him away from where the reservoir is and walked down somewhere else.
Where?
Going towards the police station.
I never killed him.
The trials of John Venables and Robert Thompson commenced 9 months later, and they were both convicted of murder, making them the youngest to be found guilty of the offense in over 250 years.
2 days later, on Monday the 22nd of February, the boys were taken to South Sefton Magistrates Court in Bootle for a hearing. Media interest in the case was enormous. Television crews and photographers from all over the world came to Bootle to get a shot at the boys. Public anger, too, had been building for some time in Liverpool, both against the boys and the intrusiveness of the media. A menacing crowd gathered outside the court, waiting for the boys to come out.
As the boys left in the transit van, bricks were being thrown, people were running up to the side of the transit van, hammering on the side with their fists. The boys, I know, didn't like that one bit.
They're 10 years old.
Alright, okay, lad.
come on.
There's been a backlash against horror videos as Britain
And
searches
those
for
people,
answers in the wake of the James Bulger murder.
they don't care
and
if
the
they're
life
10 years
sentences
old.
on his schoolboy killers. The case has already split the church and the government in a
Insane.
damaging row over who's to blame. But there's alarm now with a death threat from an uncle of little James.
New Flowers today marked painful memories of the Bulger trial as politicians and churchmen blamed one another in their search for reasons for the murder. Feelings everywhere were running high today, nowhere more than in a phone-in on BBC Television's Good Morning with Anne and Nick programme, when James Bulger's uncle, who was the one called to identify the child's body, threatened to kill the two boys.
Looks to me like everyone's making excuses for them, and there is no excuses on. They took the child, they battered them to death, and if they don't stay in jail forever, if they ever get out, we'll be waiting, and when we get hold of them, we'll kill them.
Why did they do it? You know, what was in their minds to do it? Obviously, we couldn't answer that question at that time.
In the Commons, some MPs, struggling to find any kind of action to express their revulsion, turned on horror videos that might have influenced the boys. The children had watched cartoons in this video shop straight after the killing. A month before, John Venable's father had rented Child's Play 3, a mainstream 18-rated black comedy showing a demonic doll being battered to death. The Bulger trial judge surprised the police investigating the case when he suggested violent videos may have played a part in the case. The police said they had no evidence to suggest it. However, responding to criticism, Sky Television said it's dropping tomorrow night's planned screening of Child's Play 3, while another video chain said they were burning 10,000 copies.
The youngest murderers this century were driven at speed to an indefinite future in custody, detained at Her Majesty's pleasure.
The sentence that has been passed is the only sentence that the court could pass. They recognise that, but no sentence the court could pass would ever bring James back, and nor, in their view, could it ever properly punish those two boys for what they did.
They were both given an indefinite sentence, which has no maximum, but has a minimum determined on a case-by-case basis. In this case, it was just 8 years, and despite public outrage, they would end up serving this minimum sentence, and were each released in 2001, when they were both 18 years old.
Lord Wolfe has decided the tariff should expire today. He says the boys, both 18, are genuinely remorseful, and further detention wouldn't be constructive.
It was a terrible offence, but they were only children. They were only just criminally responsible when it occurred, and it has to take into account the undoubted progress which they've made.
James Bulger's mother, Denise Fergus, said she was shocked and disgusted by the decision. It means her son's killers could be out in a matter of months.
I'll never forgive them for what they've done, never. I'll take the hate for them to my grave.
They were given new identities and granted legal anonymity for life due to the public fury that surrounded the case, and the danger of citizens hunting them down in order to take vengeance. In 2010, John Venables was taken back to prison for downloading child pornography of male toddlers. He served 3 years in prison and was released in 2013, only to be brought back again 4 years later, after a pedophile manual that provided instructions on having sex with kids was discovered on his computer. He was sentenced to 3.5 years in prison.
I'm more fearing now that someone is going to mistaken someone else's Venables and do someone who's innocent harm. That's my biggest fear now.
Do you trust that the authorities can
It doesn't make sense,
no,
does
definitely
it?
not. They couldn't monitor them the first time. What makes them so sure they're going to monitor them now? They haven't got a clue. I think they're not doing the jobs properly. They've got jobs there to do and they're not doing them. You know, they let him slip through the fingers the first time round, so no doubt it's going to happen again. He got away with so much, he's going to think he's untouchable again, and he's going to go and do even worse.
Wait, what does that say?
The right to anonymity. It's quite interesting.
Loose women? What does that mean? Loose women. That's what the TV channel is. It doesn't make sense. It's over. That's the end of the video. It doesn't make freaking sense, does it?